Welcome to Amanda Hall Psychic Mini Workshop Series. We're up to workshop number 47. This week we're working with the Sun in Capricorn. So I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody here to our Facebook Live Mini Workshop Series of a Wednesday morning here from the Gold Coast. It's 8:30 in the morning local time. I hope you're having an absolutely awesome day wherever you are in this planet of ours. We actually sort of back this show onto my previous show out of Greenville in the US of A on A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV, where I have the Amanda Hall Psychic Show airing just prior to this show. So for those of you that missed that, you'll be able to go back to, I have a show and workshop page set up. You'll be able to go back there and binge watch the previous show later on today or tomorrow, and you'll find that all the previous episodes of both the workshop series and the show can be found on that page. I'd like to welcome everybody here. Let's get some T's and C's out of the road before we start. This is purely a workshop where I teach you about working with the energy of the candle of the week, and this week we're working with the Sun in Capricorn. This is not a reading segment. I do not give away free readings. I do not give shout outs. What I like to do is try and keep the presentation as seamless as possible. I would love to hear from you, so please leave your name in the comments box and wave and say hi and where you're from, and I will personally reply to you within the next 48 hours. I'm happy to answer any question that relates to the topic of the workshop this week, which is the Sun in Capricorn. Any other questions will be ignored. This is not about getting free readings or getting your questions answered other than the topic at hand. So I hope you can appreciate that. You know, my day is fairly busy, and as much as I love everybody and would love to be able to help each and every one of you, I only have so many hours in the day and so much energy to go around to everybody. So in all fairness, I do not perform free readings. If you want the opportunity to have a free reading, can I suggest to you that next week you sort of get on board with A1R Psychic Radio before the show. I do 2 complimentary readings on the show each week, but that's the only place, and I repeat, the only place that I do complimentary readings here on Facebook. So let's kick the show off. What is the Sun in Capricorn? For those of you that are new to astrology or new to me, my name's Amanda Hall Psychic. I've been in the psychic industry here in Australia for well over 40 years now. I was inducted into the Psychic Hall of Fame in 2013, which is a very prestigious award here in Australia. To even be nominated for that award by your peers, you must have been in the psychic industry working solidly, professionally in it for over 30 years. It's not something that's handed out lightly. It's something that you really do have to work hard to be voted into the Hall of Fame by your peers, and I was fortunate enough to be voted that in 2013. I've also won for many years in a row Australian Psychic of the Year over at Find Your Psychic, and that's voted by the public. So I'd like to thank everybody that's voted for me. Voting is still continuing for 2018 Psychic of the Year, which will close at the end of the month. So thank you very much for everybody that's voted for me again this year. So the Sun in Capricorn. The Sun in Capricorn is the zodiac energy of what's known as the 10th sign of the zodiac. So each month the Sun moves into a different zodiac time as a slot, as early as the 16th of the month and as late as the 26th. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh, Amanda, I'm born on the cusp. And I say to them, there's no such thing. It's because depending on when the Sun actually entered that sign that year, and it changes from year to year, that you're either one sign or the other. The cusp is actually a line that we use in astrology. So if you can visualize it, you've got a pie and you need to cut that pie into 12 pieces. So where the cut line of the pie is, that's known as a cusp in astrology. It's like we divide the wheel up into 12 and not all of them are equal, but those lines or those cuts are what's known as the cusp line. So as you can see, you've either got one piece of pie or you've got the other. You don't have a bit from the piece before it and a bit from the piece after. You've got one piece or the other. Well, it's the same in astrology. So this day and age with computers and things like that, it's not that difficult to feed it into a number of free sites and find out which sign you actually are. If an astrologer was to do that for you, yes, it might only be a few minutes work, but you've got to appreciate their time is valuable and there will be a small charge for them to do that for you. Again, I say that, you know, people can't just keep doing things free of charge because their time is valuable. And, you know, you might just be one person and there might be another 999 for the week that behind you that just want to know what their sun sign is. So you can appreciate that takes a fair amount of time out of their working week. So the sun moving into Capricorn happened on the 22nd last year and in December, and it symbolizes a time of the year where we all start to slow down a little bit. We've just come out of the fiery, energy-driven sign of Sagittarius, where it's all systems go, and people sort of think it's because it's the Christmas season, it's the silly season, and everybody's ramping everything up, trying to get ready for the end of the year, which they are. And yes, it is that, but it's also partly the Sagittarian energy of great hope and energy and drive and running around and wanting to achieve everything and sort of jumping and dancing and, you know, full of joy and anticipation and looking forward to, I suppose, to the excitement of things to come. So when we hit that wall a couple of days before Christmas and we think it's just because we've so partied out and we're tired and we're sick of shopping and we've got everything as ready as we can get ready for the big day, that we all just want to sort of fall into a chair and just sort of have a little bit of R&R and sort of catch our breath ready for the next, you know, few days that are ahead of us. But it's also because it's the Capricorn time of the year. It's sort of, we've gone from one energy shift to another. We've gone from this fiery, motivated to sort of bang, we've hit a brick wall. It's time to slow down. It's time to sort of become more grounded and more earthy. So the Capricorn energy is about big business. It's about governments, but it's also about anything official in our lives. Now, what I mean by anything official, now that can take on doctors, dentists, lawyers, government departments, it can take on your bank statements, it can take on, you know, reorganizing your power bill, your utility accounts, whatever, anything official in your life that needs to be looked at. I also think the Capricorn time of the year for each and every one of us is about reorganizing our lives. It's about looking at, okay, what can I let go of that we've completed in this last 12 months? What needs my attention? How can I best sort of set down some good structure for the year ahead or the coming year ahead? As far as my personal finances, what are my goals? What am I hoping to achieve? And we should start to write lists, if we don't, of things that we hope to achieve in the next 12 months. Many people that go into business have what's known as a business plan, and it's something that they keep adjusting and working on as they go along. They set out a set of guidelines of what they hope to achieve, and as they start to work through it, they start to tweak it and make adjustments and say, okay, well, we've completed that, or that's not going to work, or we need to modify that or change that in the way that we're hoping to achieve our goals. Well, our personal lives should be handled in the same sort of way. It would be perfect if we all sat down, you know, at the end of the year, the start of the new the start of the new year, and started to write ourselves a business plan for our lives for the next 12 months. At what we as individuals hope to achieve. And that might be better budgeting. It may be reducing our credit card debt. It may be sort of shopping around for a better deal as far as our utility bills are concerned. It may be putting money away for our children's education. It might be about, you know, better exercise, and more consciously looking at the food that we're putting into our bodies. There's a number of things, you know, instead of sitting down and writing your New Year's resolutions when you're half tanked from the night before and it's the trendy thing to do because everybody else is doing it. And, you know, you put 3 or 4 things out there that you're going to do for your New Year's resolution. As soon as you've said them, you've forgotten. And then when somebody reminds you about them in 6 months' time, oh, yeah, that's right, I better go back and look at that. Well, let's change it this year and have it as New Year's intentions, but also let's have it as intentions in a plan, so that we've got a number of things written down or typed into our, you know, tablet or our computer that we can keep adjusting and tweaking as we go along. And I feel the number one energy this year is going to be about looking after self. It's not about being selfish as such. It's about looking after our needs first. That if we look after ourselves first and make sure that everything's running well in our lives like a Swiss clock, then we can then start to look at helping other members of the family or our friends or our fellow co-workers, because we have got our lives in control. We've got our lives on a good track. We've got them heading in the direction that we need them to. So the Capricorn energy is an earth sign. It is also a passive energy. It's not something that runs out there and shouts it to the world and says, look at me, aren't I wonderful? It does it in a more quiet, sort of conservative, logical, practical, down-to-earth manner. And why do we need to have some logic and some practicality in our lives? We can't always run at 1,000,000 miles an hour. We'd burn ourselves out and nothing would be completed. Quite often the fire sign energy is about motivation, is about making us get up off the couch, off the chair, do something with our lives. It sort of moves us forward. It's not always about sort of completing something. So this is why we need it to be followed by an earth sign, and particularly in this case Capricorn, where we can get that practical, logical, definite direction in our lives, and we get structure, we get good foundation, we get foundations upon which we can build a new beginning, or we can build new opportunities. And it's very interesting when you sort of look at people and they say, oh, I don't particularly like Capricorns, they're so cold, or they're always talking about money, or they're always talking about things that, you know, they buy that have got to have good traction, they've got to have good longevity, they don't want to be replacing it again next week, they're looking for something solid and something that won't wear out. Well, yes, they are looking for all those sort of things. They're looking at if they're going to spend money or invest money in something, even if it's a new couch, they don't want to be replacing it in 6 to 12 months time. They want something that will stand the test of time, that's solid enough to take all the wear and tear that the family can dish out and still look good, because it is an investment. It's money that has been invested in a piece of furniture that they expect a certain amount of mileage out of. But they expect the same sort of principles out of everything that they invest in their lives, whether it's a new exercise program, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a job, or whether it's just, you know, generally day-to-day things in their lives. They expect something in return. Now, I don't believe there's anything wrong with expecting something in return when we put an investment in our lives, whether that be, you know, investment of our energy, our time, our resources. We need to have something in return, but we also need to know how it's going to be utilized. And this is the questions that Capricorn asks. And the Capricorn energy is asking each and every one of us that, regardless of our star sign, what are you prepared to invest in? What resources are you prepared to invest in this year in making your dreams a reality? It's all well and fine. We can all sit there and daydream and say, I want this and I want that and I want the other. But how are we going to make that a reality? What are we going to contribute? What are we going to invest to make things happen in our lives, instead of just sitting there saying, I deserve this because I'm such a nice person? Well, you know, we can have a handful of wishes, but wishes don't come true unless you actually do something about it. And a lot of times I think it's about, we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to get up off the couch and motivate ourselves. And sometimes that's hard because we see other people around us and we think, you know, they get all the lucky breaks, things seem to come easily to them. And that's not always the case. I think that's sometimes a case of, we look at someone else and they make it look so effortless that we actually believe that they've had an easy run. And if the truth was known, they probably haven't. They've worked very, very hard, very, very diligently, and had a plan that they were following. And it's that following of the plan and joining the dots together that make it look effortless or seamless. So next time you start to get a little bit green-eyed and think, oh, somebody else has made it easier than you, maybe just step back a little bit and think to yourself, well, hang on a minute, how much energy, how much effort did they have to invest to make it look that easy? You know, what's the true story behind this other than what I'm seeing? And then I think you'll start to realize that you too can make your dreams a reality like them if you are prepared to put in that much effort. So it now takes me on to the next part of the workshop, where I designed a set of a range of candles about 3 years ago now that encompassed many, many different areas of psychic and astrology work that people were sort of saying to me, Amanda, how do you work in your professional life? Now, I've been in the industry, as I said, well over 40 years, and the majority part of that time, I've always worked with candles. I've always believed in the magic of the fire, probably because I'm a fire sign, but I always believed in, if you really, really, really wanted to make something happen, you have to invest the energy. And for that reason, that's why I always worked with candles. And not all the time in my life did I have a lot of money to spend on expensive designer label candles. A lot of the time I only had household grade candles, and I would put the intent, the purpose and direction into that candle. And I'd say to myself, well, this week, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm hoping to achieve. This is where I'm putting my focus, my energy. Then I had the good fortune of meeting an artesian candle maker here on the Gold Coast, and we put our heads together and came up with a range of candles. And I initially only started out with one and a tarot candle, and then quickly added another 4, which became to represent the 4 elements of astrology: the fire, earth, air, and water. And then we gravitated on to wealth, love, and protection. And from that, the list grew till we ended up with 27 in the range. So the list of candles grew quite quickly, and it was something that sort of I still believe to this day was a heaven sent thing, because the messages, the names, the way that they should be designed, the color, the fragrances that were placed into them, it just all happened. It just all worked. And it was just sort of like, my candle lady and I were just so much in sync. It was unbelievable. I'd get a message and she'd send me a message a couple of minutes later and saying, have you thought about this? And we were just so much in tune. So we're going to be working with the Capricorn candle today, or the earth sign candle. So what I want you to do is write down on a list 3 things, a minimum of 3 things that you would like to put down as far as your business plan for yourself for the coming 12 months. Now, if you don't have an earth sign candle, you can use any candle that you've got. I'm always big on use what you've got in your toolkit first. Use the resources that you have at your fingertips. But writing on the list 3 things that you want, a minimum 3 things that you want to bring into your life, so that when we go to read the list out aloud, before we place it under the candle, we're very firm on what it is that we're hoping to achieve. Now, this could be a list that we're going to keep adding to or subtracting or modifying throughout the year. And it can be something that you can continue to burn 12 months of the year if you want to, or you can sort of change it weekly and work with the other energies that we work with for the week. It's entirely your choice. It's not necessarily saying if you're working on your plan for this year in the Capricorn energy of what you hope to achieve, it doesn't mean that we can't be working on other things simultaneously or at the same time. I think that, you know, it's about intent. It's about what are the most important things to you. And I don't like to sort of spread myself too thin. I have my business plan or my personal plan for the year of what I hope to achieve. I keep that going for the whole 12 months. And then every other week of the year, then I look at the energy of the moon that we're working with, or whatever it might be that we're working with candle-wise for the week. I put some focus into that. So I split it 50-50 between the 2. I don't like to bring in any more than that, because I feel then we're starting to water down the intent. Again, it's a very personal thing. I always teach people, do what feels right for you, not necessarily what someone else tells you is right. It's got to feel right in your tummy. And that's the greatest guideline you can use. So with a candle, I would read out aloud my minimum of 3 things that I'm hoping to achieve in this next 12 months. And I'm saying hoping because we've got to still get off the couch and put the effort in to make it happen. And I would light the candle, burning it between 15 minutes to 2 hours per day, every day. Not just hit and miss, every day. Doesn't have to be at the same time of the day, but it needs to be for the minimum of that. So you've read it out loud. You can sit there, you can stare into the candle, but please don't leave candles unattended, particularly under fans, air conditioning, near children and pets, under open windows, near curtains. Just, you know, it is fire after all, and we have to be careful of that. I always place my candle on a coaster before I put it on the furniture. That way it keeps the glass container just slightly cooler. Less chance of the glass container cracking with the changes in temperature, and particularly if you're here in Australia at the moment where we've got, you know, we can be stinking hot 1 minute and then we have a cool change come through and, you know, drop 10 degrees in a matter of seconds. That also can affect your, you know, your glass container. The soy wax itself doesn't get hot, but the actual glass container does. Now these ones have, some of the candles have a dual wick system. If you have one with a dual wick system, like one side one day and one side the next day, that'll just give you a longer burn time. So that's our Capricorn or our earth sign candle. For those of you that might want a smaller one to take to work or something like that, or take with you while you're traveling, can I suggest our travel kit? This one I've made up this week of the 3 earth sign candles. but you can choose any one of the 28 in the range and make up your own gift box set. Now, for those of you that say, look, that's terrific, Amanda, but I really can't work with a flame. I want to work with the energy of the Capricorn energy and making changes in my life, but how can I go about that? Can I suggest to you that you buy a melt warmer? You can pick these up at the local supermarket here in Australia for around about the $15 mark. They are electric. They have a little button on the side that you can turn them on and off. These are safe to leave going all day while you're around it and just turn it off overnight. Again, I place it on a coaster. I put the coaster underneath it with my list, reading it out aloud as you go to turn it on. When you start with your melt warmer, please put 2 teaspoons of your soy wax out of your candle into your melt warmer, and then about a half a teaspoon a day. When you need to change it, just pop the little dish into the freezer for a couple of minutes, get a plastic knife and run underneath it, and you'll find the wax will be removed quickly. Then you can wash it up in hot soapy water, allow it to cool down before you start with your next fragrances that you want to, candle wax that you want to put in it. So that's how you work with candles. Now, the reasons why we work with candles is what we're putting our point of focus into the candle or into our melt warmer about the things that we hope to achieve in our lives, the things that we're working on. So by reading it out aloud, it intensifies the power, it puts the intent there, it gives us more focus, which is very, very important. We need to be focused on what we're doing to be able to draw it towards us. And that's a very important thing. So for those of you that might want to purchase some candles, can I suggest to you, you head to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. When you get to the checkout, type in the word newsletter, Facebook, I beg your pardon, Facebook or newsletter in capital letters, and that will give you a discount at the checkout. For those people here in Australia, we include free postage in all our purchases, but for our family overseas, unfortunately, we can't offer that. But what we do offer is a flat fee of postage. So no matter how much product you order, it will only denote one shipping charge. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding. There's lots of opportunities there at our website. You know, you can do a free tarot reading while you're there with our tarot widget. You can sign up for our free newsletter, and with your free newsletter you get a complimentary free astrology chart. So there's lots of fun to be had over at amandahallpsychic.com.au. So on next week's workshop, we're going to be working with the full moon in Leo, and that's probably one of my favorite full moons of the year. So I hope you can join us next week for that. But please feel free, if you want to book a reading with me, head to the website www.amandahallpsychic.com.au, and yes, you will get a discount on the reading if you type in the word Facebook. I do offer phone readings anywhere in the world and email readings. It's been a very, very interesting year astrologically so far. We've seen a lot of energy shifts, but most people have been really still feeling the intensity of the new moon eclipse that we had in Capricorn back on the 7th. And it is still sort of lingering around us, I believe, not maybe as intense as it was. So if you've been feeling a little bit out of sorts, that's the reasons why. The new moon really did dredge up a lot of stuff from the past. And it's also, I've found this week, particularly, lots of people have been contacting me saying people have had a blast from the past. People that they haven't spoken to or heard from in many, many years are sort of surfacing, as if it's sort of like people trying to relieve themselves of their guilt or their conscience, or having to say something or say goodbye or ask how you are, or it's just sort of a very unusual sort of energy with people turning up out of the blue that you haven't heard from in a long time. And a lot of people are questioning why this is happening. I still believe this is to do with the eclipse, because I think what it does is it brings people out of their shell a little bit and says, oh, hang on a minute, I better sort of get in touch with so-and-so and just let them know I'm still alive. They mightn't have a reason why they've contacted you, and when you ask them, they might seem a bit dumbstruck and say, well, I don't know, I found your number and I thought I'd ring you. And you think, well, that's not a reason to ring me. How come you found my number after all these years? Look, I'm not saying don't ask the question. I'm just saying go with the energy, accept that it's part of a major clearing that's going on in your life. It's like clearing the decks for some much better, bigger opportunities to come into your life. So I hope that this workshop's been helpful. I'll see you again in 7 days. Bye for now.